Welcome back to another episode of the Reborn run. This time, there's so much to do before we can get into the next gym fight that I'll actually be splitting the content into 2 episodes. So let's go ahead and get into the first one. Last episode, we got the HM for Fly and the badge needed to use it, so that finally means we can easily travel the Reborn region. While we were gone past the Gate City, Adrian organized an entire revamp of Reborn City, so we get to explore all of it once more. I started by flying to Opsidia Ward to get a little bit of breeding done. First, I bred the Clefairy from the circus to get Cleffa. Next, I bred one of those stationary Crustle to get Dwebble. I also bred Golduck to get a Psyduck. Finally, I bred all of the starters I got in the circus area to add their eggs to the PC for that quest that we're going to finish in a couple episodes. With all that breeding, our total is now 475. Reborn City has been improved, and with that comes tons and tons of new wild Pokemon all around the city for us to catch, though most of them are evolutions of stuff we already have. Anyways, we start in Opal Ward. Using Headbutt on the trees here, I'm able to catch Vespiquen and Forretress, bringing the total to 477. By heading towards the Railnet, there's a spot we can use to go surfing in Opal Ward. Here we pick up the TM for Low Sweep, as well as catch some Pokemon out here on the water. Specifically, we're able to catch Mantine, Tentacruel, Wingull, and Pelipper. These catches bring us up to 482. Next, I took a bit of a detour to begin a little quest that will help us catch more Pokemon. Flying to Tanzan Cove, we can dive underwater, so I do so. In the weeds down here, I catch Whiscash, bringing the total up to 483. I also pick up the metronome that's down here, and talk to a body to obtain the spooky plate. While I'm down here, I interact with all of the bodies of the Team Meteor Grunts that got hyper beamed by Dragonite back in an earlier episode, though we notice that one of them is missing an ID tag. I fly over to the Barrel Cemetery, where Simon, formerly of Team Meteor, quits the team in front of us and tells us about his former partner. We follow him back to his house in Lower Peridot, where he tells us he wants her ID tag. So, we fly back to the Tanzan Cove. Unfortunately, a Whiscash has eaten the tag, so the fisherman gives us the Super Rod to try to get it back. Even though we just got the rod, I find that underwater seaweed is a little bit easier and more likely to give us Whiscash, so I head back on down and catch 2 more. By adding all 3 Whiscash to my team, I talk to the fisherman, who finds the ID tag in the 3rd one. Returning it to Simon, he gives us the TM for Toxic, which is useful for all my stall-oriented normal types. Back in the Opal Ward water, using the new Super Rod, I fish up Staryu, Sharpedo, Clawitzer, Crawdaunt, and Kingler, bringing the total up to 488. Next, I headed over to the grass in the Lower Peridot Ward. In the morning, I catch Charjabug, Grubbin, and Vikavolt. In the daytime, I catch Manectric. Then at night, I catch Galvantula. This brings the total up to the amount of Pokemon in Generation 4, 493. I was running out of good items, so I meandered over to the department store. 2 more floors have been unlocked since we got stickers while we were past the circus. On the first are all the evolution stones, as well as some random good items and a TM. On the 10th floor, we can finally get good healing items, as well as some of the good competitive berries. Next, I headed into the Pokeball store. There are a bunch of good new balls we can buy here, like my favorite, Quick Balls. Anyways, we talked to a guy here about the corrupted Pokeball we got a while back. Thanks to giving him a magnet powder, we can restore it to get Ralts. This brings the total up to 494. Then I decided to wander around the grass in Obsidia Ward. At night, I caught a Roselia, bringing the total up to 495. On the rooftop of Onyx Ward, I captured a Pikachu. Bringing it to Apawful Beach, specifically, I used a Thunderstone on it to obtain Alolan Raichu. Since I already caught Cantonian Raichu in the Glitch World, this brings the total up to 496. In the Coral Ward, in the morning, I caught a shiny Masquerain, Mime Jr., Snubbull, Granbull, Mr. Mime, Lombre, and Grumpig, bringing the total to 503. In the Jasper Ward grass during the morning, I caught Flaffy, Leavanny, and Ampharos, bringing us up to 506. Next I headed to the Barrel Cemetery grass. During the morning, I caught Fletchender and Talonflame. Then at night, I caught Bayonet and Driftbloom. These catches bring the total up to 510. Moving on to the alleyways, Lower Peridot is home to Meowstic and Liepard, bringing the total up to 512. In the upper Obsidia alleyway, we're able to catch Houndour, then Houndoom, bringing the total up to 514. Over in the Malchest Forest, we catch a male and a female Lurantis for a quest a bit later. This brings the total up to 515. In the Rhodocrin jungle during the daytime, I catch Tangrowth. Then at night, I catch Shifttree. These catches bring us up to 517. Who knew that you could fish in a volcano? Well, Reborn lets you. So, at the top of Pyrus Mountain, I use a Super Rod to catch Charmander, Charmeleon, and even Charizard, bringing the total up to 520. I flew quickly back to the Celestinian Cascade and headed into the mountain. Using the Super Rod, I was able to catch Shelder, bringing the total to 521. Next, I headed into the Coral Ward. Here there's a secret dive spot hidden behind a lighthouse, so I headed down it. In the seaweed here, there's some new Pokemon to catch. I'm able to catch Wimpod, Frillish, Galizapod, and Marini. Next, I surfaced inside the lighthouse, where I was able to pick up a second Electrizer as well as the lighthouse key. Our total is also now at 525. Using the key in the other lighthouse, I go diving and have to battle a Huntail and a Gorobitz. These are ordinarily extremely tough in the underwater field thanks to Swift Swim and their boosted attacks, so I opted for a little bit of a unique strategy with this fight. I used Wide Guard on Beware to keep Porygon Z alive long enough to get up Trick Room to invert their insane speed. Then all I had to do was a field boosted discharge to win the fight. Anyways, as a reward, I'm able to obtain Poplio, as well as a hidden King's Rock and the TM for Giga Impact. The total is brought up to 526. Next, I flew over to Spinel Town. While I was at the circus, I got a couple fossils. So, I revived the old Amber to get Aerodactyl, and the Plume fossil to obtain Archon, bringing the total up to 528. By surfing across Tanzan Cove, we can reach a section of Tanzan Mountain we haven't yet explored. While we do need Rock Climb to go further, there are some Pokemon we can catch in this little area. Namely, we can catch Hippowdon, Steelix, Drillbur, and Excadrill. These catches bring the total for the episode up to 532, but... Next, I begin a quest for some excellent hold items. By talking to a chef in the Spice restaurant, we're tasked with gathering him a bunch of items. I already had most of them in my bag, including a balm mushroom I found in Malchest Forest off-screen earlier. Most of them are pretty easy to get over the story, so I just had to get 3 more. First, I bought the energy root in Meganium's drugstore a few buildings to the southeast. Then I headed to the Onyx Ward Trainer School. A girl here wants us to deliver a sweetheart to her crush upstairs. We could leave with the sweetheart now, but by talking to her crush and then back to the first girl, we're rewarded with an Insinium Z. Finally, in Coral Ward, we talk to a fisherman who gives us a Slowpoke tail. Bringing all 3 of these items back to the chef allows us to get 2 sets of leftovers. Next, the lady who gave us Igglybuff all the way back in episode 1 wants it back, but she won't accept our now Wigglytuff. So I breed her a random Igglybuff to get back a Luck Incense and a Pixie Plate. Next, I grabbed a Alolan Vulpix from the PC and evolved it into Alolan Ninetails. We should be able to get the other 2 Alolan forms in 2 episodes' time to get that out of the way. In the former Black Steam Factory, there's a guy here who wants to play a coin flip game with us for money. Since we are a sentient player and have the power to rewind time, all you have to do is save and reset if you lose. By beating him 6 times in a row, he'll give us the TM for Protect, also useful for stall and doubles with my normal types. The last quest I'm going to do before continuing the story starts in Lower Peridot Ward. the Old Man Seacrest from episode 1 has lost some mulches and wants us to find them. The damp mulch is nearby to the southeast, while the growth mulch is hiding in the lower right side of central Obsidia Ward. We can find the stable mulch at a table at the top of Lapis Ward, and then I flew to Barrel Ward. While I was here, I grabbed the meadow plate and the TM for workup in the small area to the west of the library in the Rhodocron jungle. Then, I found the gooey mulch in the park in Barrel Ward. With all 4 mulches returned, we're given the Venusaurite, as well as the insect plate. With that out of the way for now, we get to advance the story. First, I talked to Amethyst in the Grand Hall. She wants us to find some of our homies all around the city. Adrian is by their gym, Arclight is up by his nightclub, and Victoria is in the cemetery, crying. Of course. With all of them joined up, I fly to Tanzan Cove and head into the underground Railnet, since that's the only way that doesn't require me using strength. Anyways, heading left and up, we enter the Devoncore building from below. As we make our way upstairs, Arclight stays behind, and Victoria gets trapped by a room with the walls closing in. Not so fun, we all get separated. Anyways, as we make it to the top floor, we step on a tile and pass out. Things aren't looking so good. We wake up and we're trapped in a room. Lynn, the leader of Team Meteor, shows up on the screen to taunt us. Then we have to battle Victoria in order to proceed. Victoria has a generally fast team of a lot of fighting types, so I opted to lead with my new Oranguru sporting Trick Room, then I used Psychic Terrain. Lucario was able to take out Oranguru though, so I went in with Pyroar, since I'm dumb and forgot that my fast Pyroar would go second in Trick Room. Luckily, Diggersby came out next and was slower though, so with 1 hit each, Lucario, Mienshao, and Gallade all went down easily. Togekiss was able to knock out the rabbit, so I sent in Snorlax to try to finish it off. You already know the Snorlax strategy by now. So all I had to do was knock out Togekiss, Raichu, and Incineroar to guarantee an easy victory against Victoria. Unfortunately, she was then electrocuted. Making our way through some puzzles, we find ourselves in yet another cage match. This time, it's against DJ Arclight. This is our first battle against him, but he uses mostly field-boosted electric types and sound-based moves. Oranguru was able to get up Trick Room, just in time to take out Luxray and damage Exploud a little bit. Then I sent in Drampa, who was able to get into Berserk range to take it out. Unfortunately, Raichu was barely able to survive, so I sent in Snorlax next to begin the strategy against his Noivern. A couple curses and Snorlax was able to knock out Noivern, Jolteon, and then weaken Mega Ampharos before going down. Luckily, since Trick Room was over, Diggersby was able to easily outspeed Ampharos, so a quick Earthquake was all I needed to clean up. After another room of puzzles, we get to watch an epic battle between Amethyst and Lynn. Unfortunately, things don't go as planned. So Lynn becomes the new champion of Reborn. Great. One final room of some more puzzles later, and it's time for the final battle of this episode. We have to battle Zell one more time. This time, they have a team of 5 Pokemon, as well as Pulse Magnezone, so it can be a pretty tough one. I started with Diggersby, trying to one-shot Auroras, but a Focus Sash allowed it to take me out. Right away, I decided to try the Snorlax strategy, successfully getting to 6 curses against Auroras. Aided with the extremely helpful Leftovers recovery, I was able to knock out Auroras, Espeon, Alakazam, Glaceon, and Umbreon, all with Snorlax. Unfortunately, Pulse Magnezone was faster and strong enough to take out Snorlax, so I sent in Pyroar hoping to chip it down. Luckily though, only 1 Overheat was all I needed to take it out, so half my team wasn't even needed in this tough battle. As a result, Zero is finally separated from Lumi and Eve, the entity Zell is no more. We're able to head outside. Unfortunately, we find out that Arclight lost an entire eye in the ordeal. After a speech from Adrian, we leave the building. In North Obsidia Ward, apparently. Before I go for today, I decided to fly to Calcenon City one more time. In a house here, we find Eclipse's father, who won't believe us when we say his daughter is dead. Thanks to Aster showing up, he finally believes us and we can go check on him. On the floor in her room is the shiny chunk. Thanks for watching today's episode. We'll be catching the rest of the Pokemon in our vast new areas of exploration next time, and finally taking down Adrian and their fairy type. Have a good one.